Hi, I'm Tanja, and I'm going to share some money lessons from my 30s. If you've watched my previous video where I did money lessons from my 20s, then you would know I have the theory that each decade of your life is setting you up for the financial life in your next decade. So in your 30s, you're going to be reaping the rewards from your 20s, and you're now going to be doing those things that you will be able to financially gain from in your 40s. Hindsight is 2020, and that's one of the things that I've recognized, that in the journey of my financial life, the things I did in one decade set me up financially for the next decade. Number one, find your voice. The 30s are your times to start to really advocate for yourself. And if you are on that career path where you've started in your 20s, or maybe even if you didn't start in your early 20s because you were unsure about what you wanted to do, but now you know exactly the direction that you're going, or it's a case where you've started working for yourself and you're self-employed and you know the direction you are going, your 30s is the time where you need to find your voice, where you need to speak up for yourself, where you need to come out from the shadows, where you need to stop sitting back and thinking that your hard work will be seen and that you will be elevated to that position that you're looking for with a promotion, that the opportunities are going to come for you because you're working harder than anyone else, that they're going to give you a little extra money in your pay pack because they see the effort that you're putting in, because you have done that extra course and you think, okay, this should have been setting me up for the future, and I'm still here sitting down, because they're not going to come and look for you. You have to get up and advocate for yourself. You have to be willing to go and ask for that pay increase. You have to put yourself in a position where they cannot not see you. And your 30s is the time that you are going to want to do that. Find your voice. Number two, get good insurance. I'm not saying that you should wait until your 30s to get insurance, because we should all have insurance from the moment we start working. However, your 30s is when you're going to want to look back at what you have purchased for yourself in your 20s and see whether or not that insurance is still viable for you. Your situation, your 30s, there are persons who will be getting married in their 30s. Maybe there are even persons who are married in their 20s. And you want to be able to go back and look and say, okay, I got this when I was young, or I got this when I was single, or I got this when A, B, C, D. Is this now the best insurance for me? Or is this now the one that would carry me into the future? In hindsight, this is one of the things that I would say I neglected. Not having insurance, because I had insurance the moment I started working. However, there was a point in time where I hadn't looked back to see whether or not the insurance that I had was now fit for me, as in who I am as a person and my needs. And I want to be able to let you know so you don't make the same mistakes that I did, and know that in your 30s you want to go back and look and make certain that you currently have the best insurance that you can get on the market. And whether it's medical insurance, housing insurance for your cars or whatever, but medical insurance specifically, you want to make certain that you have that good insurance. And also use it as a time to also explore the other opportunities out there, whether they're annuities or what other insurance needs you may have. Let's say, for example, critical illness is also something that in your 30s you will want to explore, because you're not going to get as young as you are now, and it will be best to be able to tie in or to lock in the good rates while you are still young and healthy. That's a piece of advice that was given to me by an insurance agent, I think right at the beginning of my 30s. And she said to me, you need to get some good insurance and you need to hold on to it. And I really, years later, I looked back and I was like, yep, that was some good advice. So in your 30s, you want to make certain that you are covering your insurance needs. Number three, choose your friends and partnerships wisely. And this one may come as a surprise to many, This one may be one that persons don't think about. And this one is one that people would say, like, what does this even have to do with financial matters? It has everything to do with financial matters. Because as I keep repeating, what you're doing in one decade will play out in the next decade. Your 30s is when you're going to kind of step into new friendships, new relationships. You may be at the end of some school friendships and those type of scenarios, but you're now moving into more robust partnerships or friendships, whether they're marriages or even persons that you're meeting on the job. And the persons that you surround yourself with, their mindset, how they think about financial matters and money, whether they are persons who are just interested in party, live, spend money like there's no tomorrow. Those are the type of things that can trickle down into your habits. You know, they say the 5 persons around you are pretty much who you are as a person. I don't necessarily believe that, but there's some thought to it. And if you are surrounding yourself by persons who have zero interest in financial matters or who have zero interest in looking after their financial life, especially for their future, it's going to be a lot harder for you to stay on track. And it's also going to be a lot harder for you to maintain that friendship. Because probably what is going to happen is that when you are in the phase where you are saying, I want to save money and this is what I want to do for my future self, you're probably going to be the odd person out of the group. And these are things that you're going to have to really start to think about as you start to get older. Even in terms of marriages, I know in the past, this may not be something that persons have looked at in terms of the partners that they decide upon. And there are persons who would think that financial matters have absolutely nothing to do with partnerships and the person that you end up with. However, we don't live in that world anymore. And I have seen where persons who were financially stable, persons who had good financial habits all through their 20s, saved all through their 30s, have lost their homes, have lost their net worth because they were married to someone who didn't have the same goals as them. And, you know, it is actually very hurtful to see someone or to see individuals, and it comes on both sides of the fence, who have really, really worked hard to bring themselves from where they were and then have gotten to the point where they're financially ruined because of decisions that they have made. So I want to say, don't bury your head in the sand and think that relationships and friendships and partnerships, even in terms of business partners, because you could be in a situation where you had a little hobby business with a friend of yours from your teenage years or from your early 20s, and it has now blossomed into a full-blown business. You want to make certain that you are still on the same page and that you are rowing in the same direction. So pay attention to those partnerships, those relationships, those friendships, those business relationships. Pay attention to those things in your 30s. And the next tip would be learn about passive income and additional income at this point in time. And you may have a career, you may have a 9-to-5, you don't have any ideas of wanting to own your business or anything at this point in time. However, we are living in a time now where passive income is going to be very important. Even if you want to continue with your 9-to-5 job throughout the rest of your life, you are going to have to learn how to invest. You're going to have to learn how to create new streams of income for yourself. If you are not in one of those positions where you have a substantial income coming in, it would be in your best interest to start to entertain the ideas of passive income. And attached to this passive income, I'm also going to say investing. Money's kept on the bank in today's world doesn't earn you anything. But the inflation rate is a lot higher than what you can earn from your money's part. And what you want to be doing is to be creating investments for yourself where you are earning an interest that is at least a little bit more than the inflation rate. Because what that does is that it preserves the currency that you have. It keeps you then on par with what is going on in the economy. So you are not actually losing money day by day, but you are keeping pace with the current rate. And as you get into your 40s and your 50s, one of the things then that will start to happen is that money will not be valued at what it is. I think in my 20s, I didn't necessarily feel it as much, but as you get older, you are going to really start to feel the effects of things getting more expensive. So investing, passive income are things that you really want to spend the time to learn about and to start to actually put some monies there. Whether it is just in terms of money market funds, you want to learn to play the stock exchange. And I'm not saying that you couldn't do this in your 20s, because remember, in your 20s, you have time. But in your 30s is where you want to make certain that you know about these things and that you've started to create a plan for yourself. Next tip is save like your life depends on it. And in the video that I did for your 20s, I said save whatever you can. In your 30s, we're saving everything like our life depends on it. And there are many reasons why you will want to do this. Your 30s, you're starting out to really live life. You may be getting married, you may have already been married, you may want to embark on having children, you want to have your own home, you may have already gone for a mortgage. You want to be able to have some money set aside for your emergency funds, to be able to live life, to set yourself up for your 40s and future going on. At this point in time, you've already learned how to save because you've learned to save from your 20s. And now is the time that with the increase in your income from your career and whatever else that you are doing, now is the time that you should really be starting to save. Because remember, this money that you're saving in your 30s is the money that you're going to put to work in your 40s. Save like your life depends on it in your 30s. There's another reason why I will also want to say to persons to make certain that in your 30s you're really trying to save hard. We don't know what the future holds. And even for myself and a few other persons that I know, you can be living life and going along happy as a lark, and then out of nowhere there's a medical diagnosis. And it doesn't always mean that you can no longer work, but it means that you have to dial back the way that you work. Or it means that you may even have to leave the profession that you've spent a lot of time working towards to take on a job that is maybe less strenuous or less stress. And I know individuals who have had to do that. And if that is the case, then you want to make certain that you have something set aside that you can comfortably make that decision. There are persons out there well into their 40s and 50s and even sometimes in their 60s who are not as healthy as they used to be, but unfortunately they have to keep trotting and keep going on because they didn't save money when they could have. And that's one of the things that regardless of how old you are, you also have to think about those challenges that will come up in life. And I will say that you're better able to maneuver a lot of the challenges in life if you do have something saved. Save like your life depends on it. This is the point in time where we want to start to save big money, where we want to see those numbers rack up. It gives you choice, it gives you options. And this leads us into the last tip, which may seem as though it's going against the tip I said before. However, this is the time to do it. Do something for yourself. Your 30s is a time where you are healthy, you have a little bit of money. You know, there's that saying where we start life with not much, but we have time, and we end life hopefully with more money, but we may not have a lot of time. And as we go through life, there's that balance and the shift where we can start to see it shifting between having time and having money. Your 30s is a point in time where you supposedly should still have good health. You should be now coming into good money, and you may still have a little bit of time. Is where your time will start to get a little bit dodgy. But at that point in time, you can see, well, I can still carve out a little bit of time. And you may be able to carve out that little bit of time because you have energy. And this is the time where I would want to encourage persons to do something for yourself. What I did around this age, which I consider something for myself, was to take a round the world trip. And if you've read the stories of why I took that trip, it was at the point in time where I'd gotten to the crossroad with my career, where what I set out to do at the end of university, which was to be the chief financial person in an organization, that was the objection I had on my CV as a young university graduate. I had done that when I got to age 30. And I looked around and I said, okay, now what? Do I want to sit down and just consume all this stress? Is this what we do? We do this every day, every day. I was already a qualified accountant. And I said to myself, one of the things I've always wanted to do was to travel the world. And I got off the hamster wheel, and that is what I did. I took a year off from work, turned out to be more than a year. I spent 7 months traveling around the world, and it was something that I did for myself. And in hindsight, I look back and I recognize it was also a point in time where I was exhausted. I was exhausted from all the work I'd done in my 20s. I had seen the benefits of all the work I'd done in my 20s played out in my now being played out in my 30s, meaning I was a qualified accountant, I was saving some money, I was able to get to the point where I was a financial controller. But it takes a lot to get there. And I want to really encourage persons to do something for themselves. I'm not saying completely derailed all the work that you've done so far, but do something for yourself as a reward for all the work that you have done thus far, and for all the work that you will be able to then be able to do mentally. Because once you're able to do something for yourself, it doesn't have to be a round the world trip, but you know exactly what you want to do for yourself. Could be a little career break, could be a little 6 week something. It could be even just one trip that you've always want to take. It could be nothing related to anything like that. But do make certain that you reward yourself for the hard work that you have done so far. So those are my tips for living a good, solid financial life in your 30s. And as I said, those habits that you create in your 30s are the ones that you're going to reap the benefits in your 40s. And as I sit back now in my 40s, I can look back and see what I am now being able to do and what I've been achieving financially in my 40s, and where the work actually started in my 30s. And this is the way it works. You lay down the groundwork, you put in the effort, and you reap the rewards down the road. So tell me, what are you doing now that you will reap the benefits from in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, and for all the years to come?